Hello and welcome from a warm and sunny UK. In this video I'm going to answer one of the common questions I get, which is what is the best 50mm Voigtlander lens for Leica M mount? I'll try and do roughly 6 lenses in 6 minutes, and those are the 6 current production lenses if you're on the market to get a new lens for your Leica M mount camera or any other camera that accepts these M mount lenses. If you're a regular viewer, you know I review quite a lot of M mount lenses. I've already done full reviews on each of these lenses, but for this video I'll try and keep it short and I'll give you the pros of each lens, why I think it might be right for you, and stay with me until the end and I'll explain maybe why I bought the wrong lens. Let's jump straight in. Hi guys, Matt here from MrLeica.com. So in no particular order, lens number 1. Start the clock. Voigtlander Heliar 50mm f3.5 VM lens. This is probably the oldest lens design of the lenses we're talking about, and it's a very quirky lens. People seem to either love it or hate it. Being a 3.5 lens, it's going to be too slow for many people that are looking for kind of bokeh shots or shallow depth of field portrait lenses, which is what I'm often looking for. However, if you want sharp, this lens gives a really nice 3D pop. So if you can put up with the quirks of the lens and you want something smaller, this lens is really good. This is the cheapest lens of the lenses we're reviewing. I'll cover prices at the end to make it easier. Lens number 2, the Voigtlander Heliar 50mm f1.5. This is a newer release, I think released in 2021. This lens is a bit different. It's a bit of like the old one out in this set of lenses that we're talking about, in terms of it's designed to give a less perfect look, where most lenses are designed to give what people may think of as a perfect look. Call perfect, whatever you want. So this lens is very much like using a vintage lens that you might find on eBay for £50, for example. The advantage is it gives you that classic look in terms of low contrast, slightly softer, a bit more of a glow look, without the problems of buying an old lens on eBay where you may have problems with fungus and haze, and there's quite a few problems that could happen if you buy an old lens compared to obviously buying a brand new lens where you can send it back if you don't like it. Again, this lens is a bit of a love-hate lens. I'm sure some people love it, and I was kind of a bit on the fence, so I didn't mind it, but I think there are better lenses in the lenses we're going to talk about. Lens number 3, the Voigtlander Nokton 50mm f1.5 version 2. So this is the latest in the series of the Voigtlander 50 1.5 Nocton lenses. I also use the Nokton LTM and Nikon S mount lens, which is a previous version, and those are also excellent if you're looking for a deal on eBay. As for the latest lens, this is the smallest lens of the 6 on test, if you want to call it that. It's the smallest, it's the lightest, it's probably the most beautiful, depending on taste. I personally think it's amazing, and it fits beautifully on a Leica M camera being so small. The reason I didn't buy this lens is because from my testing, if you shoot the lens at 0.7 meters, which is the minimum close focus distance on all the lenses we're talking about, except one, it's not as sharp as I wanted it to be. From 0.7 meters to say 1.5 meters, I was shooting all at f2. If you're happy shooting at f2, you'll probably love this lens. If you shoot mid distance to infinity, you'll love this lens. If you want a small 50 that you're going to stop down anyway, brilliant lens. So a lot of pluses for this lens. I just wish it was a bit sharper, shot wide open. Lens number 4, if you want sharp, there's nothing better in my book from all my testing than the Voigtlander APO-Lanthar 50mm f2. So this is the lens that I bought of the ones we're talking about, and I'll explain a bit at the end as to whether that was the right move or not. If you want a lens which is as sharp as a macro lens, you will love the 50 APO. I compared it to Leica macro lenses head to head, and the APO lens either did better or it was just as good. This lens is brilliant for product photography. It's super sharp, even shot wide open at f2. It's sharper than the ZM planar Zeiss lens. If anyone's interested in the Zeiss lens, see the full video when I do a head-to-head test. This may upset some of you diehard Leica fans, but even as a Leica Summilux 51.4 spherical M lens owner, the APO is definitely better at f2 than the Summilux. Don't kill me, I love the Summilux. The Summilux is amazing 1.4, but if you want nicer bokeh and sharper, use the APO if you want to shoot at f2. I know that may upset some people, but I own both lenses, and for f2 I always now pick up the APO rather than the Summilux. Lens number 5, that is the mighty Voigtlander Nokton 50mm f1, which was released at the end of last year. This is the fastest Voigtlander lens for Leica M mount, and it is a bit of a beast. I have done 2 videos on this lens, it's that good, so be sure to check those out if you want to see lots of example photos. Is it the best Voigtlander lens? I would say no. It's the most expensive, it's the largest, it's the heaviest, but do you need it? When I did a test 50 f1 versus 50 f1.2, the results were so similar. I would say most people would be better off with the 51.2, and I'll talk about that in the next lens in a second. If you want to know what I use for a fast 50, I use the TT Artisan 50 0.95 because it's a more creative lens shot wide open, whereas the 50 f1.0 just gives a more standard look with a bit of shallow depth of field, being an f1. The 0.95 TT Artisan is less perfect, and it's much more similar to the older Leica Noctilux 50 f1 that I use, whereas the Voigtlander Nokton 50 f1 from my testing is more similar to the Leica Noctilux 50 0.95 current edition. So if you want sharp, modern, shallow depth of field, you'll love the 50 f1. If you want something a bit more creative, you'll probably like the TT Artisan, which is the one I went for. That said, I shoot the TT Artisan on an SL camera, so I don't need to worry about calibration. If you're using an M camera, Voigtlander lenses are better because they're calibrated, obviously, out the box. I know I'm going to be going over my time limit, but I'm trying to just give you all the information I can. And then lastly, lens number 6, the Voigtlander Nokton 50mm f1.2. This, to my mind, in hindsight, is the best lens of the 6 lenses I'm talking about. It's almost or as good as the 50 f1 shot wide open. If you want those shallow, glowy bokeh shots, shoot the lens at 1.2. You're going to get a more vintage look and a nice glow, soft look for, say, shooting female portraits, which is what I photograph. If you're shooting on digital especially. If you want something sharper, the Summilux is sharper at 1.4 compared to the Nokton f1.2 shot at 1.4, if you can follow this. However, if you shoot at f2, yes, the 1.2 gets a lot sharper, but the APO is even sharper. So if you want the sharpest lens at f2, the APO still wins. And so with that, why did I decide to buy the APO and not the 51.2? And why do I now think that maybe I got that wrong? It depends how you're going to shoot. If you only want to own one good 50mm lens, I would recommend to get the 51.2 as your only lens. That means if you shoot it wide open at 1.2, you can have the soft look. And that means you don't need to then buy vintage lenses just to get a soft glowy look. Just use the 1.2 wide open and it does roughly the same job. Obviously a bit more corrected being a modern lens. If you want sharp, stop the lens down to f2 and it's plenty sharp enough. So when I shoot on film, I shoot the lens at f2, or I did when I was testing it. That then gives you sharp results, and obviously stop it down more than f2 and you're going to get definitely sharp results. Why did I buy the APO? I bought the APO because I had plenty of old lenses already to give me soft look wide open. I wanted something sharp enough to use for product photography, but also to use wide open f2 for model photography when shooting on Leica M film cameras. If you shoot Leica film cameras the same as me, in that I prefer to pair Leica M film cameras with really good Leica M lenses, i.e. sharp M lenses. So for example, the Summilux or the APO. And then a combination of the softer film look plus sharp lens gives you great photo. Whereas if I'm shooting digital, I prefer to use less perfect lenses because that softens the clinical harshness of a digital sensor to give you a softer look. So for example, I'll use vintage lenses a lot of the time on my digital cameras. I use a TT Artisan 50 0.95, and if I had the 50 1.2, I would use a lens at 1.2 100% for portraits on a digital camera. And so I bought the APO because it was sharp at wide open, it's smaller and it's lighter than the 1.2 lens, and as I say, I already had soft lenses, but now it means that I'm carrying 2 lenses. I'm carrying one sharp lens and one soft glowy lens. Yes, that's fine if you carry multiple bodies because you can have your soft lens on your digital camera and your sharp lens on your film camera, but if you're only carrying one lens, then in hindsight I would have got the 1.2 even though it's slightly heavier. And so with that, which is the best lens for you? Firstly, it might depend on your budget. So if you excuse me grabbing my list in terms of prices, most expensive, the 50 f1, £1,650 or $1,800. Second most expensive, you can either have the 50 f2 APO or the 50 1.2. They're both the same price in pounds, £900. The 1.2 is $950. The f2 APO is $1,000. If you want something cheaper, you get the Nokton 50 1.5, £850 or $850. If you want something even cheaper, you can get the Heliar 50 1.5, £630 or $850. And then if you want the cheapest lens, get the Voigtlander Heliar 50 3.5, £490 or $530. Now I spoke to Robert White, and this is not a sponsored video. If anyone uses my Mr. Leica discount code, you'll get your usual 5% off any lens price, including the 50 f1. And for the first person to use the code, you get £50 off if you use Robert White and if you're living in the UK. I don't get any kickback. I'm just trying to give something back to you guys. Please smash the like button if that helps you out. Subscribe if you like these types of videos. But wait, before we finish, so which is the right lens for you? It depends on what you shoot. If you're shooting, say, landscape photography and you're just stopping down all the time, if you don't mind the quirky ergonomics, I would get the Voigtlander Heliar 53.5. I know some people will be like, it is a really, really sharp lens and it's got better 3D pop than all the other lenses on this test from my own experience. If you want the option to be able to shoot in low light if you need to, and again you're shooting, say, more everything stuff, maybe travel photography, get the Nokton 51.5 is my top pick. If you love the look of vintage lenses and want something less clinical, get the Heliar 51.5. If you want the equivalent sharpness of a macro lens in a normal lens, get the APO, maybe architecture or anything where you want super sharp images. Even portraits if the people have got nice skin. If you want something softer and probably the best all-rounder, I'd say get the 51.2. And if you want the most street cred for having a eye-catching fat lens on the front of your camera, get the 50 f1. This is of course only my opinion. I'd recommend watching the full reviews on each of these videos or the ones that you're interested in, where you'll have all the specs, sample photos and a lot more detail. And then I'd recommend watching reviews from other people to get a kind of broader opinion. This is obviously only one person's opinion from a guy that shoots a lot of portraits. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please smash the like button. If you like anything Leica related, feel free to subscribe. This is what we talk about on this channel. And as always, a massive thanks to my patrons. If you're now tempted to check out the 51.2, check this video. And for all my Leica M lens reviews, check the playlist here.